I'm actually grateful when I look in the mirror and see the scars because to me they represent healing, not pain.
Welcome to the Secrets of Being podcast. I'm Dr. Dawn Earhart Whitty, your guide on a transformative journey of personal development and discussions of universal truths. Join me and a panel of life coaches and spiritual leaders from around the world discussing how to handle some of life's greatest challenges. We will be sharing stories of love, faith, and inspiration with you, our faithful listeners, to live your happiest and most fulfilling life, full of purpose and passion for yourself, your families, and the world. We are here to be the change we wish to see. Let the conversation begin. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Secrets of Being podcast. Today, I am so thrilled to have with me Terry Healey. He is a keynote speaker. He is the author of the Resilience Mindset. And as a storyteller, he helps people address adversity and change, build resilience, and gain confidence to find success and purpose. He's a sarcoma cancer survivor with facial difference, and his work has appeared in CEO World Magazine and Psychology Today, just to name a few. Terry, welcome so much, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Dawn, for having me. Look forward to the conversation.
Well, I can't wait to get into your story, but I always like to start my podcast off with a quote. And so I chose a quote from you.
Okay.
And this is what you said. You said, when we all wrestle with insecurity, for me, it took something devastating to recognize that battle scars make people interesting and wise. Trauma helps us appreciate life and prepare us for its inevitable adversities. Today, I'm thankful for who I am, a much stronger and wiser person than the old Terry. And that's a beautiful quote.
Thank you. That kind of says it all, right? I'm actually grateful when I look in the mirror and see the scars because to me they represent healing, not pain. And it just gives me great perspective to remind myself every day of that, right? So took a while, don't get me wrong. It took a while. It was a journey, but I got there.
Well, so can you tell us a little bit about your story from, growing up, just like not a care in the world or normal teenage cares to being diagnosed and going through these surgeries? Tell us that journey for you.
Sure, yeah. So I like to say I was living life on easy street because everything was going pretty simply for me, and I was hitting all the milestones that I had set, and I was a junior at UC Berkeley. I was the president of my fraternity, and then out of the blue, this bump forms behind my right nostril. And the doctors sort of brushed it off as they said, oh, it's probably just a pimple. And I was like, nah, I don't think so. I've had those. But long story short is I did get a diagnosis of a really rare form of cancer called a fibrosarcoma. And they don't typically ever occur in the head and neck. So that was part of the challenge in getting a diagnosis too. But yeah, originally it was treated and we were kind of back to normal, living life the same way as I had before, no scarring or anything. And then 6 months later is when I had a pretty major recurrence that changed my life.
So what did that look like to you?
Yeah,
How did that?
so I went into the procedure with no idea 2 days before the tumor board meeting what the prognosis was. UCSF had this, tumor board meeting. They came out of that and basically said, hey, this is pretty serious. You can lose half your nose, you can lose your right eye, blah, 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 blah. I went under the knife and I had about a 10.5 hour procedure, which resulted in the removal of half my nose, the shelf of my right eye, the muscle and the bone from my right cheek, part of my upper lip, part of my hard palate, and 6 of my teeth. And I woke up attached to my chest because they had to transplant a full thickness skin graft from my chest to fill in this cavity that had been created on my face. And so when I woke up, a couple things crossed my mind. One, when I looked at myself, I thought I was the elephant man. But what I also captured in that moment right away was that I had my eye and they saved my eye. And so fortunately I had gratitude right off the bat. It could have been worse. But yeah, it became a journey that I had to learn how to get through.
And how old were you when this happened?
Yeah, I was 21 at the time.
So you're just entering adulthood.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this, and so, okay, from that, when you looked in the mirror after that major surgery, what was that journey like for you? I mean, there's clearly physical healing that has to happen, a lot of that. But then
Yeah.
what about the emotional and the mental healing? How did you work through that?
Yeah, I always tried to find the silver linings, and my surgeon was this incredibly confident and competent man, right? And so when he approached me after that procedure, he gave me hope because he said to me, "Hey, we're going to get you cured of this cancer." And he said, "Hey, Terry, we're going to get you reconstructed back to who you were." And Dawn, it doesn't really matter what the ultimate result was, because at that point, what I needed was hope. I needed to believe that I could get back to who I was somehow, because it is a journey, and there's only so much you can handle at certain points, right? And so I was really grateful for that because I think it gave me what I needed to sort of go from step A to step B, which was, okay, now we're not sure how quickly we can start the reconstruction because you're going to need radiation therapy. So kind of felt like one setback after another, but still there was this hope out there that I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get back to who I was. And so I always kind of had that. But yeah, no doubt it was difficult because, as you know, I mean, when you're 21, appearances matter a great deal. And I was used to having an appearance that was advantageous, and then suddenly it was a disadvantage. It was a disadvantage for me. So
I read that you were prom king.
yeah.
So you
Yeah,
went from prom king to feeling like you looked like the Elephant Man in a short span of years.
short span, yeah.
And so here's a question. Have you always been somebody who looks at the positive and finds the silver lining, or is that something that came about through these procedures?
It's a really good question. I had a foundation of faith as a kid. I grew up with a family and parents that instilled building your faith, and so my religious faith gave me courage, it gave me strength, it gave me hope, but it also, I think, part of that was being grateful, right? So you pray, but you also say your thanks for what you do have. And so I think that because I had that foundation, that was really thanks to my parents for providing that framework, that foundation, that really gave me a lot of that courage growing up and getting through that ordeal. And I think I learned pretty quickly that when you start your day and end your day with gratitude, it actually makes everything better because you start to realize how much you still have to be grateful for, despite whatever's going on, right? You can have a lot of bad things going on, but there's so much that a lot of us take for granted that we need to just remind ourselves
Yeah,
to be grateful
yeah.
for.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about some of the work that I do in Africa. And ever since I came home, I've always intellectually known to be grateful because I know how blessed I am. But,
Yeah,
you know, even when something goes wrong and like this blows up or there's plumbing and leaking, and, instead of being upset, I'm like, I have water in my house, so
right.
I always find the gratitude because it's made me so much more aware. And I was just wondering if going through this and getting through this and coming on the other side of it, if your gratitude got even stronger.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I reflect a lot, and I began to reflect, a whole lot more when this happened. And what I mean by that is just taking the time um, to remind myself how important it was to think about the things I'm grateful for, because it started with they saved my eye. I mean, I couldn't have been more grateful for that. And then I thought about simple things like, hey, I can still do everything that I could do before. There's really nothing that I can't do. I might look a little different, but I'm an active person and I can continue to be active. I have my two arms and two legs. Um,
in
and
your life.
in my life. And and yeah, I mean, mine was a very difficult, complex case that was life-threatening, you know. So I had an incredible amount to be grateful for. And and I think that, you know, you talk about, you know, the fact that you go to Africa. I love that because that is talk about a great way to gain perspective, right? When people
Yes.
travel to other parts of the world where people don't have things like we do, it really opens up your mind and gives you such important perspective.
Yeah, it does. It truly does. Um, so from going through all the rehabs and the surgeries, I'm sure there was a bunch of that and that entailed a lot of years. How did you get to the point where you started sharing your story to help other people and teach and write and speak about resilience? What was that journey like?
Yeah, so I started, you know, within a few years after that major surgery I described, I started to write a book. And the plan wasn't to write a book and publish it. It was really to do it for myself because what I found as I started punching the keys was it was therapeutic. And then I turned it into a practice of, okay, I'd get up at 4:30 in the morning and I'd write for an hour before I did the rest of my day. And it was incredible because I would cry sometimes. Like I'd be writing about a story and I'd start crying. And it was just I experienced so many of my emotions and it brought all of that out that I hadn't really experienced before. So what happened was I eventually got that book done and decided, okay, I'll just self-publish it, which I did. And what I didn't realize, Don, is that people started finding it and saying, "Hey, would you come speak to our group? Would you speak to our association, to our company?" I hadn't anticipated that at the time because I still didn't feel that good about myself. And so I thought, oh my God, how am I going to get in front of a group of people when I don't feel confident, have the self-esteem? But that was the second part of the therapy, right? That became therapeutic. And how I was able to get to that point had so much to do with just focus and preparation, right? I said to myself, I can't screw this up. So I'm going to prepare, and over prepare so that when I walk in the room, I know my material and I'm going to feel more confident. I'm not going in anywhere blind. And so that's how that started. And then that whole process just kind of fed on itself and helped me start to feel better about who I was.
So it kind of, your career kind of found you through this adversity.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask, so your book, The Resilient, okay, what was the name of that first book that you
First
wrote?
book was called At Face Value.
Okay, I saw that one also, but this is more recent. So,
Yep.
so what are some things somebody who just really is just feeling maybe at the lowest point that you were, right? Even before the gratitude fully kicked in, at your lowest point, what are some things you could suggest for somebody to do to help move them in a direction of being able to heal from their
Yeah.
story,
Yeah.
emotionally, spiritually, and also help and serve others through their story?
Yeah. I think that it's really important to experience your emotions, first of all, and allow that to happen. Some people, you know, are in denial and they don't really want to face it. But I think that's just part of how we heal. So experience it, allow yourself to feel whatever emotions you have. And many of those can be positive. I mean, some people would say that, you know, if you're angry at what happened, maybe that motivates you to set new goals. I don't know. But I think experience it and then sort of try to move on and say, okay, I this is where I'm at. How do I move myself forward? And I think that there's a few things that I would point to. One is making sure you're surrounding yourself with positive people that you trust, right? And sometimes that's hard, Dawn, as you know. Like sometimes you have people that are difficult to get out of your life who are negative. So, and maybe you can't actually do that because of circumstances. But it's making sure that you're taking care of yourself. So surround yourself as much as you can with that positive energy. And then I think it's start to set goals and start to get focused on how you're going to move your life forward. And ways in which you can do that can be anything from practicing visualization and positive imaging to just setting what I like to say is a singular goal, right? Something that you know you can achieve. And I don't mean to make it easy, but when you start to set goals that you can achieve and you don't cloud yourself with multiple goals, when you achieve those, you actually start to feel better because you start to believe in yourself again. Because I think, as we all know, adversity sometimes it affects how we feel about ourselves in so many ways, and we lose some of who we were. We lose some of our self-esteem and confidence because we don't feel we're in control. So how do you get control again? Right?
Yeah. And I saw something the other day that said confidence comes from results, seeing some results. So if you
Yep.
never try, you're never going to see the results. So you might try and do it poorly the first time, but then
Absolutely.
say, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm getting better, and then keep plugging away. And then one day you're going to get the applause or whatever it is that you're looking for. And you're going to say, oh, there's the proof. There's the proof.
100%. And you just said it, right? That's a growth mindset. You're learning from your mistakes, you're learning as you go, you're learning from your challenges. And that's what resilience is all about.
Yeah. And there's a determination. That's why like when
Yeah.
your purpose is so big that,
Yeah.
failure's not an option. So you
Right.
say, okay, this didn't work. There's so many more letters in the alphabet. Let's just keep going down.
That's right. 100% agree.
So to give us some like nuggets, morsels from your book so that people will say that, yes, I need to know what's in that book.
Okay. So I'll tell you how I ended up writing the book, which is part of the answer, is that when I would speak to audiences about my story, a lot of people would come up to me afterwards and said, "Hey, I already read your memoir at face value, but what you speak about are all these other methods that other people can employ to help them get through adversity or conflict or change. You should write another book." And so I finally did by listening to my audience, really. And so, really, what I think people can take away is an understanding that we all have that capacity to build resilience. We can all recover from our setbacks. We can grow stronger from our experience. And so, what I try to provide are is a framework, really, my rebar resilience framework, which is a way to help people go through phases of whatever that change is that you're experiencing. And I guide them through these phases with a series of questions. The questions are designed to personalize it to yourself and your own situation so that at the end of the book, you take away something that's actionable to work on how you're going to address some of the issues that you might have and that you're dealing with.
So does rebar stand for, is that like I
Yeah.
don't even know. Yeah. Okay. Help me.
So
What does that
yeah.
stand for?
So rebar, I just got lucky that acronym worked for my framework, which is a four-phase framework. Rebar represents reflect, build, act, and renew. So it's RE for reflect, B is build, A is act, R is renew. So rebar, what I really liked about it is that we know what it is, right? It's a reinforcing bar that holds concrete together under tension. And so it represented strength, and that's really what I wanted to convey. So
That's amazing.
yeah,
Yeah, because when I saw rebar, I was like, okay, is this an acronym or is this like is he talking about like strong steel? But it's
yep,
both.
it's both. Yeah, yep,
That's awesome. That's awesome. So in your journey today, cancer all gone.
yep.
Oh, how long has
Yeah,
that been?
it's been it's funny you asked because a few days ago was my 40 year,
Oh,
40
congratulations.
years
Wow.
cancer free. Yeah, it's been a long time. So I'm grateful for that.
So no in and out of hospital visits, not any of that in your life right now.
No, knock on wood, things are going well. And I think so much of that probably has to do with just attitude too. I just try to keep positive and keep going and feel blessed every day that I wake up and can face another day, you know?
And then you are of service to other people. You've
Yeah.
taken your story and your challenges and you're using them to be of service to somebody else. And I think that's the most beautiful thing we can do with our lives, and certainly any adversity that we've gone through.
Yeah. Um, Again, yeah, it's a blessing. There's so many people. I literally was on a call this morning with a guy who had his whole face, kind of impacted by an angiosarcoma. And he found me on the internet. He wanted to talk. And he said, there's nobody to talk to. And so it's just great that people can find one another and like we did today and give him some resources, hopefully, so to help him move forward.
I think just having somebody who says, I see you, I hear you,
Yep,
you're
exactly.
important. Isn't that like one of the best, most beautiful things we could do for anybody?
It is. It is. And I think exactly to your point, we just listen more, be there for people. A lot of people worry about, well, a friend of mine is really hurting. What do I say? What do I do? And it's like, you know what? Don't overthink it. Just be there for the person. That's
Mhm.
really what matters.
Yeah, yeah. There's an African word I love. It's called sawubona. And it's, I see you, I value you, you are important to me. And it's
Great.
like if we could all just show up like that all the time,
Yep. All
it
the
really
time.
makes a difference for us and then for the person that feels seen.
Yep.
So in all the people that you're working with that are going through these things, you can relate to them in a way that perhaps I couldn't.
Maybe, yeah. I think a lot of people just want to have something in common. Um, in my situation, there's a gal that I've been working with for a year who, through an organization, was speaking with another woman who was going through a similar sarcoma in her face. And she kind of switched gears and she said, "You know what I want? I want to talk to somebody that's a survivor, not somebody that's still going through it." And it was kind of interesting, Don, because here's this 32 or 34-year-old woman, and I'm this, I could be her father, basically. But she needed that perspective, right? A different perspective. And I just listened to her. I don't try to give her a lot of advice. She just needs somebody to talk to and feel like she's on the right track.
Oh, well, thank you for showing up like that for people. So
Oh,
tell
yeah.
me, do you have children?
I don't. I
Okay,
just have a dog. Yeah, a wife and
not
a
just
dog.
a dog. Dogs are wonderful.
Yeah, it just wasn't something that worked out for my wife and I, and so that's okay.
Mhm.
We're happy with our lives the way they are. So
You know what? I think God in the universe gives us what we're supposed to have in each lifetime. I wanted 4 kids. I only had 2. But now I have hundreds of kids in Africa. So go figure, you
yeah,
know?
right. No,
So,
it's amazing that you have the capacity to do what you do. I was kind of blown away by your own story when I read about it. I'm like, wow, here's a mom and she's doing this on top of it. So
oh, my
good on
girls are
you.
old. I'm a grandma. So like they don't need me to mommy them anymore.
No,
So
you're
when
not.
I have, yes, I am. I have that urge to still nurture everybody. And my kids frown upon that when I pack their lunches and they're in their 30s. So I just, I share that love with other children. But I
I
think,
wouldn't have known that. Okay.
well, thank you. Thank you. But sharing that love is part of who I am. It's part of who you are. And then again, God gave you these circumstances. You wouldn't have asked for them, but
Yes, exactly.
that's what you had to deal with. And you've made a beautiful thing out of something that was scary and hard.
Hopefully.
You are doing it.
Hopefully
I
hopefully it inspires a few people here and there and gives them something to get them through that next phase in life.
Yeah, well, and that's the hope. You
Yep.
can give somebody hope. You've given them one of the most beautiful gifts that you can give them. So thank you for doing what you're doing. I would love for you to tell everybody where they can find you. I know you have a website. And then also we'll have that all in the show notes so people can click on it and find you. And then also I want you to leave everybody with one piece of advice that you just think is so important that you want our listeners to leave with.
Okay, great. Yeah, so you can find me on my website is terryhealey.com, and most of my social handles are at Terry Healey US. So you'll find a lot of resources on there as well. I always encourage people to go to my website for resources as well as information about my speaking and books. But I would say that, one piece of advice for people is that is to be aware, be alert, be attentive to what's happening around you, and be open, because people and events will transpire that will impact your life. And none of us knows where we're going to get the inspiration that we need to get through a crisis in our own lives. And it oftentimes comes from people we don't know, people that we meet on the street. That's what happened in my life. And so I've always just believed that listen, be open, and amazing things can happen. Reflect on your day and consider what transpired during the course of your day. Who did you meet? What conversations did you have? We're so inundated with information that we forget our conversations, right? But if you take a little bit of time and absorb some of those conversations, there's amazing things that can come out of them. Those became my greatest turning points, believe it or not.
That's wonderful. Sometimes we even forget to have conversations. It's not just that we forget what was said in the conversation, but we're just so on our phone or we're distracted by the next thing we have to do. We forget to say hi to that person or ask how
Right.
they're doing. So thank you for that reminder because, yeah, we need each other. We're here for each other, all of us.
You're living that life yourself, and I think that's so wonderful what you do, because it's grounding you to exactly what you just said. It's like discard the phone. I'm here. No.
Yes, be present. Oh, you just
Yeah.
gave me goosebumps. Thank you so much, Terry. I really enjoyed talking to you. I'm so grateful that people like you in the world that's sharing the positive, giving people the hope and the inspiration so that no matter what they're going through, they can say, you know what, he went through it, he got through it, I can too.
Thanks for the platform and for having me on your show, Don. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I hope our paths cross again.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right. Well, and thank you all for listening to The Secrets of Being. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you for tuning in to the Secrets of Being podcast. We appreciate your time and support. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with more inspiring content. For further inspiration, visit thesecretsofbeing.com and join our community. Until next time, stay inspired and keep unlocking the secrets of being.